Something that's not talked about enough in the industry is
you get burned out.
You're a pretty screwed up individual that is unbelievably buttoned up and put together.
That was something that happened to me.
We are all human beings.
I actually have a chance now to understand how to be a better parent.
You don't have to talk to a person to get your whole job site off the ground and going.
My daughter, she can sniff out the AI instantly.
They're not your customer.
I told Anna, I was like, we're going to see real quick who runs a good restaurant.
Doesn't matter if it's golf or cooking, you will get results when you love what you do.
Thank you first so much for being here, Elliott. We truly appreciate it. We're going to jump right into these questions. Again, this is live on the Clubhouse with Charlie Bolak. What do you think separates the good from the great as far as territory reps?
I think some of the biggest things that differentiate, and it applies to almost anything in life, is your complete commitment. You know, there's a famous phrase, love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. And I watch people where they take on a little bit too much grind. They don't have the right leadership. They don't have the right environment. And the second they become disengaged, it diminishes pretty quick and they're putting in a minimal amount of effort. They're either putting it in psychologically or they're starting at 9 and ending at 2 with a 2-hour lunch in between. And all of a sudden their results aren't there. And rather than realize that they're not into it, they blame their company, they blame their customers, they blame the market. I have watched, we've all seen, when you play all out, doesn't matter if it's golf or cooking, you will get results when you love what you do.
You mentioned early in that answer, you know, they start out strong and then it kind of weans over time. From a leadership standpoint, how do we keep top talent engaged while we're going through that type of growth? Because that was something that happened to me. And I've talked about it on the show before. It is, you know, there's only so many times you can go down before you start wondering, hey, how am I going to continue to get the result?
Another phenomenal question. For me, I'm a big one. Leadership, we all have things that we got to measure. And it blows my mind how many leaders go out and they're like, look, you have to do 15 calls a day. You have to close X number of deals. You have to do this. You have to do that. And the problem that ends up happening is we're so worried about the score that we don't gamify it. Now, if we're talking golf, or if we're talking running a kitchen, or if we're talking real estate, gamify the process. And what I mean by gamification is put games out to your team. Hey, the person who creates the best, the sales rep who opens the most unique account. You know, I had accounts that I opened and I'd be out and I'd be like, you know what? I really want to see if I could open this unique account. I opened Coors Brewery. I wanted to open up these really unique accounts because it keeps you engaged as a person. And I think that a lot of sales management, they're so worried about developing a process that it actually burns people out. I mean, if you go out and you say, look, I'm going to play the same golf course every single week, you get burned out. If you make the same meal every week or do the same real estate deal every week, you get burned out. The second you sit down and say, hey, I need a little variety, I need a little creativity, no matter how big or small it is, we are all human beings and we need to be gamified, we need to be stimulated, and we need to be engaged. And I think many leaders, they focus so much on the processes and procedures that it loses the gamification and the creativity and fun. And then quickly your sales reps become disengaged. They are not robots. We are all human beings. Like, when was the last time you did something fun like role play in your sales meeting? When was the last time you went and played a round of putt-putt golf? You know what I mean? Like, those things are the stuff where you're like, oh my gosh. But it makes you realize the joy of the games that we all play every day.
Brandon, to go deeper in that, you know, you and I have discussed, I think on the show before, burnout. That's a hazard in any industry, not just heavy equipment. So have you seen that on some of your side, Brandon?
People that don't burn out kind of wear the badge of honor that you didn't burn out, but I don't think that's a good thing. I was definitely one of those guys that, you know, I'll just show you how hard I can go, how hard I can grind. You give up a lot of things, you lose a lot of things, and then later in life, when you get older, you start realizing how stupid that was, you know? I mean, how unfulfilling that was, and it's just one of those things that honestly just didn't know any better. In the restaurant business, we were almost brainwashed to think that was what was expected of us.
Yeah.
60, 70-hour weeks, 6 days a week, never going home for the holidays, no weekends off. So burnout was really big in that industry. I've only been in it for a couple of years. I'm sure there's some burnout effect to it, especially when you start getting into the higher level. You start dealing with the Targets or the IKEAs of the world, that there's so much more pressure going into that. Those deal cycles are years and years long. I can see that burnout happen there. I think deal fatigue is probably the bigger thing that hits people in the real estate world, on the commercial side, of just deal cycles. I hear it all the time. I do leasing, I do sales, I do a lot of restaurant work just because of obviously my background. But the old guys are like, man, used to be able to turn leases over in, a month, maybe 2 months tops. Now they're taking 6 months, right? And for me, being new in it for 2 years, I don't know the difference, right? So I had to adjust to the deal cycle and just understand it. But even in my 2 years or right under 2 years, there are moments where I'm feeling that deal fatigue, just because it's just like, you feel like you got so much in your pipeline. You feel like you got all these things that you're supposed to do, but you just can't close it, right? And at the end of the day, if you're a 100% commissioned guy or girl, if you're not closing, it doesn't matter what you got in your pipeline, because the bill's got to be paid. I got 4 little kids and a wife, a mortgage. I got about $10,000 worth of bills I got to handle every month for private school and everything else. It's like, yeah, I'm so happy I have 50 deals in the pipeline, but if I'm not closing any of them, it might as well be zero.
Something that's not talked about enough in the industry is, mental health and how burnout can affect your mental health and how it can lead to tragic outcomes. I mean, not necessarily physically tragic, but career suiciditis, I call it. Sometimes we get a little bit of a burr under our saddle and make poor choices. I had a customer here at Swingaway Golf Club the other day ask me, he's like, man, I can tell you're stressed. How's your mental health? And for somebody that I considered a friend to ask about, that's not something guys really do and this is a D1 athlete, right? I mean, I didn't expect it. I was taken aback, and it really caused me to reflect a little bit on how everything's going. But if we're not having these conversations, we're doing everybody a disservice, because it starts somewhere and then it circulates.
Absolutely. I will tell you, one of the weirdest things, I get the pleasure of connecting with a lot of different people. Thank you once again for the podcast today. Really unique people all over the world. And I get hundreds of messages a week, either directly through me or through my LinkedIn. And there has been a pattern that has been arising. I actually have people I got to follow up with today, and the mental health, the burnout, the stress, and I will tell you, I've been thinking a lot about it. And I think it's 2 things. Number one is, and Brandon alluded to it, you have to make time for yourself. You have to sit down, and I will tell you, I actually think that the phones, I realized that the TikTok, the streaming, the Instagram, the Pinterest, all that stuff, is that I watch people, and instead of sitting and having conversations that fill up their cup, or investing in themselves, or sitting out and enjoying a nice day at the park, they literally, the second they have 5 minutes free, we used to go and sit and let our brain relax, let our bodies relax. And you watch people, the second they sit down, and it's like, boop.
Yeah.
And I realized that it's not physical fatigue, it is mental fatigue, because we are filling every minute of our day with a stream of information, and we're never allowing our brain to think for itself. We're never allowing our brain to relax. We don't need to analyze stuff every minute. And I actually think the biggest fatigue causer right now is not taking an adequate amount of time away from the daily grind, your phone, your TV, your stress, and just sitting down and mentally relaxing.
To that point, about a little over a year ago, I deleted all my social media, right? And I just decided, I never was a big social media guy. I had it because in the restaurant world, you gotta sell for money. As a chef, you want to be putting your food out there and trying to get people's attention. But for me, it was this moment I'll never forget. I'm sitting there on the couch watching TV, long day, and all of a sudden I started realizing I'm scrolling through during the commercial breaks. what the F is that, right? I mean, it literally was a moment that was very just poignant to me of like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't handle a commercial break. I need to be stimulated this much that I need to do that. And in that moment, I deleted them all, right? I deleted them all off my phone. I still have an Instagram that is not on my phone. And it's funny, I get people all the time texting me, dude, you didn't look at the story. I'm like, yeah, I don't look at any of that. And I will tell you this, over freaking night, it was amazing how much more, like, I don't care, honestly, and this is maybe a little cold to people, and I apologize if I'm stepping on some people's feet here, but like, I don't care what you got going on in your life. If I know you, I'll know what's going on in your life. If we're friends, we'll talk, we'll connect. You know, I'm a 10Xer, right? So it's like, I'm a latchkey kid. I grew up in those conversations in the neighborhood and seeing your friends and looking forward to spending that face time with each other. And I think
Absolutely.
all of us in sales, most of us would probably say we're good salespeople because we get that face time, right? We're selling a meeting. If I can get the meeting, I know I got a much higher way of closing you, right? It's not that now I got AI, I can send you 1 million cold emails out there. That doesn't really matter. What I'm trying to get is one-on-one time with you, take my personality and who I am and try to make you want to do business with me, right? And you want to build trust-based relationships with people, and you can't build that on screen. You got to be able to have that face-to-face interaction, that human, you know, I want to smell if your breath is bad, right? Like, I want to be in that situation to where, you know, and I know we're on a podcast and we're all on screens, but, you know, that real human interaction and laughter and high five and just, we're human beings. We're built for that. We're made to do that. In a world where, you know, we're more connected than we ever have been, suicide rates and depression are higher than they've ever been. What's wrong here, right? Like put the phones down and let's like have real human interaction and be people. I think that's what's lost in that aspect of it.
You absolutely nailed it.
You know, it's funny, mental health is something like you touched earlier on, Charlie, like guys don't really talk about, right? And funny enough, and I'm secure enough in myself, I had my first individual counseling session yesterday. It was great. I loved it. Never really thought about doing it, but I did it. The funniest thing ever is my guy is like, wow, you're really high functioning to be, you know, not to get into my story of my life, but, you know, my mother died when I was 3. My dad was married 8 times. There was my father was a great man. I loved him. But there was a lot of things in my life that I guess now I understand maybe was classified as traumas. I just compartmentalized things to keep moving. And honestly, for me, it was like, I don't have time for that, which he found, you know, concerning, right? And it was funny, we get through it all, and to kind of sum it up is like, you're pretty screwed up individual that is unbelievably buttoned up and put together, and it's impressive. You know, I'm like, yeah, dude, look, I know I'm screwed up. I understand. I just don't want to talk about it, and I don't need to talk about it, right? Like, I don't need to put a short out talking about my mental health, and not to say that that's a bad thing, but like, I don't have time for that. I got 4 kids. I have 6 restaurants. I got 15 million clients wanting to do stuff with me. Like, and I think, again, in that kind of same vein of what I'm saying, like, I need to make time for that. Because at some point it's going to manifest, right? At some point, something's going to happen that you don't even know what's going to come from those traumas because you never addressed them, right? You know, and again, I made my reference to being a Gen Xer. We grew up and you just stuff that shit down, right? Like, you don't talk about it, you don't bring it up, and everything's all hunky-dory and fine. And, you know, and quite honestly, 47 years, that's how I've lived my life. You know, just recently, you know, I went through this. I called my sister and was like laughing, like told her kind of what I told you. She's like, yeah, we were some latchkey kids. We were screwed up. We just don't talk about it. And but I also tell her how refreshing and freeing it felt. How I look forward to going back. I want to understand more about it. I have no shame about it. I don't feel weird about it. It actually kind of is like, I'm at a point now in my life where self-reflection, you know, the young people out there, you do get to an age where you start realizing, you're on the downside, right? And you want legacy, you want your life to mean something. If you're a parent, you really want to not screw your kids up, right? I mean, I think a lot of big part of being a good parent is not creating assholes, right? Not creating bad people in the world, and also understanding that you can screw your kids up if you're not doing the right things, And so for me, that self-reflection point is, wow, like I actually have a chance now to understand how to be a better parent, to be a better father, to just be a better human being in the world, right? And understanding that that's okay if I don't know how to do it. There wasn't a handbook or a manual to how to be this. You just, depending on how you are or what you were taught, you kind of just are reflections of that, right? So I think mental health is unbelievably important in everybody's life, and it needs to be taken seriously. And the funny part is, this 22-year-old me would probably call me a snowflake and kick me in the face, but 47-year-old me is like, damn right, man. Like, it should be proud of me.
The key takeaway is that now it's becoming more socially acceptable to actually talk about it. It's not the stuff it, and going about your life. And I think that's going to benefit a lot of people. I know it's going to benefit me. Absolutely. Great point.
Great golf brings people together. At Swing Away Golf Club, the experience is built for golfers and everyone who comes with them. Experience North America's only mechanically actuated virtual green with ball tracking by PuttView, paired with Full Swing Pro 2.0 simulators trusted by Tiger Woods and John Ram. Every swing is captured, every shot is real, and every putt reacts exactly like it would on the course. Serious golfers can dial in their game with tour-level feedback and unmatched realism. And for friends and family, Swing Away offers a comfortable, welcoming space with great food, a full-service bar, and fun, interactive experiences that make it easy for anyone to just jump in and enjoy the moment. Play iconic courses from around the world, share the experience together, and enjoy a place where competition, connection, and atmosphere all come together. Swing Away Golf Club. Practice, play, win.
So, Elliott, let's get into this AI thing and how it's affecting sales. Brandon mentioned a minute ago, you can build prospect lists. You can give these things search parameters, and it can turn up every customer that could possibly be a customer in 4,000 miles in 18 seconds. It's amazing. It's going to revolutionize. But the people who are going to feel the best results are the people who use it best out of the gate.
And it's funny because you mentioned people who use it best out of the gate. The one thing that most people don't realize, ChatGPT was released November of 2022. In case we're doing the math, that's almost 4 years ago. So it's funny to me as people are like, oh, I want to get ahead of the AI. I hate to say it, but you're already 4 years late.
Exactly right.
So now the biggest thing is if you're not catching up to at least be even, you're getting left behind, and you're getting left behind hard. I think the biggest thing right now that people need to realize, utilize, understand is the industry as a whole is going so fast. The smart people understand what mundane tasks, like Charlie mentioned, like you mentioned, researching what are the closest accounts in your area. What are the biggest opportunities in your area? Absolutely, yes. Back in the day, if you rewind, there used to be a blue book. If you rewind after the blue book, you had to go Google it. Then you have to, go out and visit job sites. There's all these things where you have to find out who the biggest players are. Now that AI handles all that stuff, it does not change the fact. It speeded up the process. It didn't change the process. You still need to follow up with those leads. Charlie said it perfectly. You need to go out and people buy from people, and you have to know how to build the trust factor. And I will tell you right now, AI is actually making the trust factor even bigger. And here's why I say that. My daughter, Charlie mentioned he has kids. We have kids. When you sit there and you look at it, my daughter will look at stuff in her internet feed. She'll look at stuff that she sees on social media, and she can sniff out the AI and the fake instantly. And it immediately, like, it'll be a picture of a coffee cup. It'll be a picture of something being poured, and it isn't even overdone. And her eyes pick up those false images so quickly. And it's interesting because it actually turns her off. Like she's like, oh, Dad, that's AI. Oh, Dad, that's AI.
Yeah.
And for lack of a better term, is it's like saying, oh, it's a Muppet. It's fake. And when people already watching my daughter, when I see her sales or quote buying style, is she sniffs out fakeness and doesn't like it, it tells me authenticity, genuine connection, and truth have become the hot commodities because you see so many lies.
Yeah.
You actually want truth and authenticity more than ever. And I think it's going to become the big leverage in sales. Everybody's going to know how to use AI. Everybody's going to know how to make artificial images. Everybody's going to know how to draft up a perfect email because AI did it. The question is, do you know how? Have you learned how to have a great, authentic, genuine conversation where someone says, I trust you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you've nailed it right on the head. I mean, it's really about, okay, reports that might have taken me weeks to create now can happen in 18 seconds. So that means I have more time to prospect. I have more time to set meetings. I have more time to build that one-on-one trust relationships, right? That I'm not spending a week at a time on a project and something that I have to do. So if you look at it a way to accelerate your business in the proper way, and exactly what you said, focus on those human interaction skills, I think that's where it's really dangerous in a very positive way, right? The go-getters, the grinders, the people that, don't look at it as a way to do less work. Actually, I'm looking at it as a way to create way more work for me, just more efficient. And I think that's the key to AI in my eyes. It's not Google, right? Like if you're using AI to look up a question to an answer, you're so far behind. 4 years is a long time. AI is teaching the next version of AI, which just means exponentially faster. It's learning, it's growing, it's getting better. So, I mean, I can remember in the beginning of this almost 4 years ago, it was almost kind of weird to use AI. Like, what do you mean you're using AI? Like, that's kind of, Skynet, right? Like, we're thinking about the Terminator days. And it's like, no, I mean, it's a tool, right? And when you were a horse and buggy, a gas combustible engine felt weird, right? Well, you have to adapt, you have to grow with these things, and technology pushes us. Now we're just in this unbelievable race that's happening. And if you aren't getting on this, you're going to be left behind so quickly. Absolutely. That your jobs they won't exist, right? You have to adapt to everything around you and know how to use the tools to the best of your ability.
Elliott, to kind of play devil's advocate here, as we see the next generation, the younger and younger guys get into that ordering decision maker position, what kind of trends are you seeing on those guys making their choice purely offline? I mean, I know Equipment Share, some of the big guys, you don't have to talk to a person to get your whole job site off the ground and going. Are you seeing the younger generation liking that, or are they still kind of afraid of that?
I'm going to play this two twists because I'm going to include each one of you, knowing Brandon's background as a chef, knowing your background in golf, and knowing my background in sales. Here's the biggest thing I'll tell you. I can go and play a golf simulator. It doesn't beat walking the course. I can go out and I can do Uber Eats. It doesn't beat a dining experience. I can go out and I can say, look, I've watched companies where they're like, look, we're going to go online. We're going to order up all of our equipment. Outstanding. Go do it. And then you open up the package and you realize it's not what I wanted. Right now, more than ever, talking about the golf course, talking about being a chef or in real estate, or speaking about how I work in sales, every one of us wants, and it's the biggest thing, we want a personal concierge and a /coach advisor. If you look, when you go onto Amazon, you're right. What are the ratings for that product? Why do you care about the ratings? Well, because I want a coach and advisor. Guess who that coach and advisor is? You have no idea. Are they an industry expert? Why am I taking restaurant advice from a 22-year-old who barely knows how to scramble eggs? I'll tell you who I want to take advice from when I go out to dinner, an executive chef like Brandon. When I go play a golf course, I don't want to have somebody where here's like, oh, well, it plays really good on a simulator. That doesn't mean a damn thing. Go to the golf course and I want to play with somebody who's played the golf courses. I want to meet up. I want to be with people who know it, experience it, and are going to engage me. And I think to your thing, we're to the point that you made of, will everybody be buying online? We will always find people that want the ease of buying online. Every person here, doesn't matter who's listening to this call, we've all gotten burned buying something online. Your Uber Eats showed up and it was tossed. It was all upside down. It looked terrible. You go out and you say, hey, this golf course was really highly rated, and you find out it's a par 3. You go out and you rent a piece of equipment, and the company that sends it out was the cheapest company, and you realize it was a low quality piece of equipment that was not well maintained. Every single one of those affects the overall experience that customer has. And I really don't think that AI is going to replace it. And I actually think it will have people where they will realize the value of a great interaction, because they're going to start trusting people that have the experience. It's not going to just be ratings. It's going to be someone you trust.
I couldn't agree more. You know, I had met some people from the Chick-fil-A company, and we were talking about all the different nuances of restaurants. And a hot topic is, you know, inflation, raising prices, right? Like the cost of food goes up constantly. Margins already razor thin. What happens, especially in the local mom and pops, right? Like they're scared to raise their prices. So they just keep cutting their margin and their margin and the margin. And the next thing you know, you got loss leaders, right? And, you know, 1 or 2 are okay if they bring the crowds in that are spending the money on everything else. But at the end of the day, if you got a menu full of loss leaders, you're going to close very quickly, right? So something that I remember CEO of Chick-fil-A saying to me that stuck with me to the core: if they're complaining about your prices and they're not coming in, 2 things are happening. 1, your user experience or diner experience is not what it needs to be. Or 2, they're not your customer, right? I mean, if what I'm selling you in the real estate world, right? Like I'm sure there's a way, Zillow and all that, you can buy houses and all those things on there. And luckily I'm not in the housing world, I'm in the commercial side. But like, if you don't want to meet and look at the space and allow me to talk to you about what it is, understand what we're talking about, you're not my customer. You know, and go do what you need to do online and do all those things, and that's fine. And there's a world for that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in what I do, I facilitate an experience, and I handle whether I'm tenant repping or if I'm landlord repping. I'm working for somebody there, and I'm doing the work, and I'm creating an experience, right? I mean, I can go, imagine, you know, hey, here's this, I don't even know how big of a space it is. Couldn't even tell you how much it is. You ready to sign a lease? Of course not. You have to be able to articulate what's going on here. You need to know what their need is, right? Which involves questions, discovery questions, and making not feel like a robot interacting with people. And in real estate, we really talk a lot about, we are working in a way of trust-based long-term relationships, right? I'm not trying to sell you a piece of property or lease something to you or for you with the idea that I'm never going to see you again. I want to perform, right? I want the experience to be as painless as possible. I want you to feel great about what's going on. And we all agree, I think, in a transaction, if both sides feel like they won and both sides feel like they had to compromise something there, then that's a successful deal, right? So the power of somebody like me in that world is to try to get to that deal every single time.
It sounds like the answer is, in person, you bring value. Where is the perceived value online? Is that, would you agree, Elliott?
Absolutely. I think the interesting thing that'll end up happening, which they've already done studies on this, is they've looked at it and they've proven. They actually did a study with children, small children, and they took photographs of people's faces and they had different emotions on them. And they showed these images to children, and they realized now that generations have gone by, children have less understanding of all of the different emotions. And there's happy, there's sad, there's a couple of different emotions, but there's not the same gamut of depressed, frustrated, angry, confused. They're just looped into mad. And as these changes have come around, I actually think when someone can go out and make those personal connections, it will enlighten people that they're actually seeing more emotions. And I'm going to tell you one of the biggest phrases, and we all know this: emotion causes motion.
Yeah.
If you're really passionate about something, you would be amazed how easy it transfers to somebody else. If you walk into a restaurant, if you walk onto a golf course and somebody's like, oh my gosh, you're going to love the 9th hole.
Yeah.
That person rolls up to the 9th hole and they look at it differently. Oh my gosh, you're going to, oh, the lamb chops tonight with the jam. Oh my Lord. And all of a sudden that person's like, wait, what? Yeah, I found this real estate piece of property. You must see it. And immediately somebody's saying that transfer of enthusiasm is where sales are made. And it'll become a hotter commodity as time goes by.
I think it's a skill that's not really inherently taught. I think a lot of times energy is something that you either have or you don't have. And I'm not saying it can't be learned, but when you learn something like that and you don't learn it in a way that isn't authentic, then it feels like that fake up, that fake pour, like to the point of what you were talking about your daughter. I mean, I am naturally a very high energy guy. I have been told so many times, why are you so happy? My response is, why aren't you? Right? I mean, I woke up this morning, I got air in my lungs, the sun rose. I get to live another great day on this earth. Like, why aren't you happy? And I'm infectious that way, right? I mean, I'm an energy guy, I'm a culture guy, and I believe in coming into my office with my restaurants back in the day, and I say good morning to everybody. We're knuckling, we're high-fiving. How was your day? Great. What's going on? How's your family? Tell me about all these things. I'm a big believer in manifesting positive things in your life. If you think you can do something long enough and you put yourself in positions to do that, you can do it. I mean,
Amen.
I used to get the question all the time in the restaurant world, especially from the younger cooks, right? Like, Chuck, how did you get here? How did you get from being a biscuit maker at Hardee's when you were 15 years old to owning 6 restaurants, to being an executive chef, to working in all of these great restaurants? And quite frankly, my parents told me I could be anything when I was a kid, and I believed them.
That's
and
right.
I just put my mind to it and said, okay, it's all problem solving, right? Like, I mean, I literally at 46 years old, I decided to sell everything and get into real estate. That's crazy. With 4 kids, a wife, all the mortgage, everything I have, everybody I knew was like, dude, you are nuts. But every one of them also who knew me said, anybody can do it, you can do it. And for me, it's just a problem solving thing, right? Like, it wasn't like I woke up one day and said, all right, I quit, I'm gone. It was a 2-year process, right? I decided 2 years before I was going to do it. What are the steps to get there? Because at the end of the day, that's all it is. A system is really just writing down what you do every day that you're not even aware of, right? When people get paralyzed in the fact that I got to create a system, you already have a system. You just didn't write it down. So to the point of, you open the door, right? And you come in, what's the first thing you do in your building? I cut the lights on. I go over here and I do this. If I'm in the kitchen, I cut the hood on, I cut the ovens on it. That's the process. Just put it in paper down, right? So for me, the way my brain thinks is, okay, I'm going to get into real estate. But what do I have to do? First thing you got to do is you got to take a 60-hour course and you got to pass the test. Okay, well, where do I get the course from? How do I start studying? Let me just start. 60 hours is going to happen whether I take this course or not. So let's go ahead and do it, right? So you knock that out, you take it, then you start lining up interviews. You interview, you find the place you want to be. You get in, you find somebody that's smarter than you, that's been there longer. You make sure to be personable enough to get them to like you, to want to train you. And then you learn and you ask as many questions as possible. Be the F and G, right? The F and new guy. That's what it stands for in the restaurant world.
Same thing every other restaurant. Yep.
In Kitchen Confidential. So, it's always been that thing of like, you only have a finite time to be that person, right? Because at some point, if you're here 10 years and you ask the same questions, maybe this isn't for you, or maybe I don't have the patience to help you. So utilize that time, make your procedures, figure out what it is from A to B to C to F. How do I become this? And then just go do it. And that's just how I think about life. And now I'm on the cusp of being, considered a successful broker and doing the things that I'm doing. And it's really the same way as one of the restaurant business. I put my head down, I busted my butt, I showed up, I was dependable, I was reliable. I didn't, I partied with the best of them, but you know what? I'd leave the bar and go to sleep in the parking lot because I wasn't going to be late for work. I need to be there. And I think dependability is a huge part.
If you want to learn how to fly, you better jump out of the nest. I watch way too many people where they play safe They take a job where somebody else controls their destiny and controls their success. Mad respect to both of you guys. I'm going to tell you right now, you got to jump out of the nest. You can spend your entire career, you can spend your entire life playing soft and playing easy. There's a lot of people that do that. The rewards go to those who are willing to take risks and play hard.
Great golf brings people together. At Swing Away Golf Club, the experience is built for golfers and everyone who comes with them. Experience North America's only mechanically actuated virtual green with ball tracking by PuttView, paired with Full Swing Pro 2.0 simulators trusted by Tiger Woods and John Ram. Every swing is captured, every shot is real, and every putt reacts exactly like it would on the course. Serious golfers can dial in their game with tour-level feedback and unmatched realism. And for friends and family, Swing Away offers a comfortable, welcoming space with great food, a full-service bar, and fun, interactive experiences that make it easy for anyone to just jump in and enjoy the moment. Play iconic courses from around the world, share the experience together, and enjoy a place where competition, connection, and atmosphere all come together. Swing Away Golf Club. Practice, play, win.
I'll tell you what. Let's do one last one if you have time, Elliott. Let's do one last one. And Brandon, this will be a good one for all of us, I think, because we all made it through 2008. What is one lesson that you took from 2008 that has stuck with you and will stick with you for the rest of your life?
For me, diversification. I realize I watch people and they put all their eggs in one basket. I won't speak on just 2008. I'll speak on 2008 and I'll speak on 2020. Absolutely. So in 2008, I watched people and they put all of their rental equipment was on residential, real estate, construction market. And when that collapsed, they lost everything. I took a pounding from it, but I had just enough diversification to survive. So as much as 2008 rocked everybody's world, if you had other types of business, manufacturing, if you had people that were out there and they were doing government, parks and recs, municipalities, if you had all those, you could make enough money that you could survive. Was it as good? Absolutely not. But you didn't die. At the exact same time, in 2020, during COVID, it happened. Everybody got rocked. And a lot of people don't remember June of 2020, the price per barrel of gasoline, of crude went to negative $23 a barrel, which means in Texas, they quit pumping oil and they stopped hard. We had employees that worked for my company that had a ton of equipment out on rent and they put all their eggs in one basket. Respectfully, they made a lot of money off of crude oil pumping. And when that market stopped, it wasn't that they didn't know how to sell, is that they didn't know how to diversify. Mm-hmm. And I would tell you the best thing you can do is you have to make sure that you take care of all the different types of customers. And you have to make sure you have a big enough diversification that not if it stops, but when it stops, you can pivot and you can adjust so that you survive and maybe even thrive in an ever-changing economy.
Brandon, how about some wisdom from the restaurant industry in 2008?
I think Elliott knocked it out of the park. I mean, the diversification was exactly what I was going to say there. Honestly, I don't really have much to add. I mean, it killed it. I mean, that's the thing that the moment you asked the question, and I was going to do the same thing 08 and 20, because, basically they're the same thing as far as shutting the world and global economy down, and people weren't ready for it. I mean, I know in 2020, the buzzword was pivot, right? Everybody's pivoting. The same thing as diversification, right? I mean, in the aspect of understanding that one thing that we thought was going to be great isn't going to be great anymore, and you can't just sit there and die. You got to get up. You got to get to working, right? I mean, you got to get to start thinking. The people that were like, "Oh, the government's going to take care of me," and like that's going to stop. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the things that they did were needed, and people, definitely benefited from that. And I definitely am not trying to say anything against that aspect of it. But I can't tell you how many people didn't have a plan after that. Didn't have a thought, forward thinking that, okay, cool, they're going to pay me this money, and now I'm going to smoke weed and play Xbox all day long in the basement. No, bro, like that's going to stop eventually. And then what are you going to do? The people that I think came out of both those things in a good situation, took the downtime, reflected, obviously licked our wounds, and then started thinking, what's next, right? Like tomorrow's not promised to anybody, anything, anywhere. So what's next? What can I do to try to think about what's the next move? My wife just took a job in the trash business, right? She works for public services and she's selling dumpsters and stuff like that. The very first thing we talked about in her looking at that career, recession-proof, right? Like that was something that we talked about immediately of, wow, I mean, trash is never going to stop happening. COVID, trash was hugely abundant. 08, trash was still happening, right? So it's like, okay, there's something that, what's funny for me is 08, we felt that restaurants were recession-proof, right? I think every restaurateur that had a good brand and was, endeared to the community always felt like people would take those moments and make, maybe I'm not coming 5 days a week or 3 days a week, but I'm still going to come for the anniversaries. So you just had to try to gather more people. COVID showed us very quickly that we couldn't make it through that, right? All of a sudden, we're having the Cisco's, the US Foods of the world calling us and asking us to be grocery stores because they had so much food that was going to die in their warehouses that now we're selling retail stuff. And a lot of people did that, and then all of a sudden we're selling to-go alcohol and outdoor venues and events and, all these things that everybody was trying to create. But at that moment, honestly, for me, it was like I was already kind of ready to get out of the business. And a big part of that was my 4 kids, and I was tired of missing their life. But that really was the moment where I thought 2 things. Real estate's where I'm going, and I'm going to create a clothing brand. And I did both, right? And it was diversification, right? It was something in my head of, okay, here's 2 ideas that I've been thinking a long time for. I have connections in both worlds. Being a chef, I'm super creative, and I have the desire to do the thing with the clothing line. And in the real estate world, I think I have the skill set to be successful in that. So for me, COVID was the beginning of, okay, this is probably a 5-year plan to get there. But you know what's going to happen? 5 years is going to happen whether I think about this or not. So let's use that time to really hone in on what you're going to do.
I will add one thing that in 2020, with respect to restaurants, Brandon, I told Anna, I was like, we're going to see real quick who runs a good restaurant. And those who, to your point, pivoted and got those alcohol specials, got those, meal in a box type cook at home things. Those who stepped up their to-go programs are the ones who made it through that and came out on the other side healthier, almost like the Taco Bell of Demolition Man, if you remember that old movie. Well, guys, that's really all I've got. I'll open it up for any last comments for y'all, but I truly appreciate it. I thought it's been excellent conversation and couldn't be prouder to put out this product once we cut it and get it right.
I think you facilitated it awesomely. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you for the wide spectrum that you put out. You did an absolutely amazing job, and you're appreciated. Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate what you do for the industry.
Thank you so much, Elliott. Thank you. Again, this is live on the Clubhouse with Charlie Bolak.